Hey, this is Phillip Sayce, and you are watching the 5150 Show with Brad and Andrew. All right. Hey, this is Phillip Sayce, and you are watching the 5150 Show with Brad and Andrew. All right.
TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome, folks, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, to the Brad and Andrew Show. That's
All right.
cool of him to do that, eh, bro? All right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How privileged are we? That was really good having Phillip join us. We should probably organize another one. You know, there's a lot to talk about. I'm sure he's got a lot to talk about. So that's probably a good opportunity to invite Mr. Sayce back on.
I think that might be a good idea, bro, when you consider what we're going to be talking about today in today's live stream. It might be something that's relevant. And you and I both know that Phillip has been happy sharing his time with his fans on streams and shows and on our show, bro.
Yeah, look, we're very privileged to have Phillip Sayce on our show, Andrew, I think, and we've formed a good friendship with him. I'm sure he'll join us again. I know he's got a few things in the works, and one of the things that we'll be talking about today, Andrew, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree, bro. I agree. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So we've got a few things obviously to talk about. Phillip's going to be a big part of the show when you consider, we're talking about modern Stratocaster Masters. Well, that's the title of the show. Whether or not we stick to that, bro, that's a completely different story. But bit of fun last week, bro, on the channel, didn't we? Bit of fun.
Yeah, it was a great show, Andrew, and everyone seems to be enjoying these very loose shows we're doing. And I know we haven't done a ranking with the tracks for a while, people, but that's probably a good opportunity to do a bit of a shout out to our good co-host, good friend and co-host Simon. We well and truly miss you on the show at the moment, Simon, and we're looking forward to having you back. And I haven't spoken to you this week, but I'm hoping that you're definitely on the road to recovery, and the next ranking of the tracks with you, we're definitely looking forward to, Andrew.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it much better than that, bro. So we do want to. I just want to echo what you've just said. So Simon is well and truly on the mend. We do communicate with him. Brad and I aren't one of these like fair weather friends. We do extend messages and
halfway around the world.
No, we do wish him well, sincerely, and I know that a lot of people here in the chat, Alan, Johnny Heartbreaker, Gretch Zeppelin, good friends of the Rock Professor. I know that they've been putting comments out on his social media as well and wishing him well. So he's going to be back. But until then, you're going to get Brad and I, and then on the odd occasion, probably John ZD351 and maybe Hugh jumping on, keeping this part of the YouTube universe ticking along, bro.
Oh, yeah. Look, we're doing our best, to be honest with you, Andrew, to keep, the job going. And I'm sure Simon won't reprimand us too much for all the work we've been doing online. Rock Professor. Yeah. We do. Yeah. For people watching and not sure what we're talking about, Simon's one of our co-hosts. He's in a recovery phase from an operation, and he does check in with us. He's the one who reprimands us all with the title The Rock Professor. He schools us quite regularly. Don't worry.
Awesome. And we've got John, our brother, in the chat saying, hey, boys, we'll be listening to the show through headphones with my phone in his pocket while he's cutting branches in his backyard. Sorry, he won't be in the chat. So we wish you well, bro. When I jumped on to pass Brad the link for today's show, John had a post of an empty wheelie bin in this big pile of branches. And he said, how are these branches going to get from this area here in my yard into this bin? And I hate to say it, bro, but it's hard work.
John, welcome to my world, mate. That's what I do for a living. Unfortunately, I do yards and groundkeeping. I do maintenance around at school. That's what I do, mate. I'm used to that. It's hard slog, but somebody's got to do it, my friend.
You're pretty good, bro, at squishing a lot of things into tight spaces, eh? That's what you got to do, eh, bro?
With a title called The Backdoor Man, I don't know where to go from there. John, also can suggest, mate, is if you've got a saw, cut them up into small pieces so it packs a bit tighter, my friend.
Yeah. We wish you well. But yeah, he'll be obviously, hopefully we can have him in the chat with us next week. Some good channel news, bro. We ticked over. We've got 11,205 subscribers on the channel. So we're slowly ticking along, bro. We cracked the 200. So
yeah, well, Andrew, congratulations, and we couldn't have done it without everyone who's contributed to the channel along the way, Andrew.
100%, bro.
Big shouts out 100%. To everyone.
Yeah, everybody, and they all know who they are.
Yeah,
we're not going to go through including names. Yourself.
We're not going to go through individual names, Andrew, but there's plenty of people that we are extremely grateful for contributing to everything about this channel, Andrew, where we're at so far.
100%. So John's not a gardening person, nor am I. The only gardening tools I have, bro, is weed killer and a lawnmower.
Yeah, I've got plenty of that. Don't you worry. Don't worry. Hey, you need some weeding done? You just kill the weeds first.
Spray, bro. It's all done. That's it.
And let Mother Nature do its job. Yeah, just they break up into millions of pieces and disappeared.
Anyway, bro, cheers.
Cheers. I've got my my cup, this cup of coffee, my Guns N' Roses, my prized Guns N' Roses cup.
Brilliant. So no news that's happened this week, bro, before we start the show that's come to your attention? Anything exciting, unusual, interesting?
Nothing unusual that I'm aware of, but Andrew, I mean, segueing into our show today, we saw the release of Phillip Sayce did put out some pickups through Seymour Duncan, and that might be a great way to segue into our show, Andrew, that these pickups look extremely hot. I've got to say, it's like going to a bakery store and having that hot, fresh bread, ready for carving. They look pretty good. I've watched. There you go. Andrew's all prepared. So they're doing a run. I think it's 500 of them with the antique look, which is they basically look like they're designed around his famous Mother guitar, his Mother Stratocaster, and Andrew's well and truly prepared here. So there's the Mother guitar there. It's a well and truly loved and used 63 Stratocaster with 58 pickups in it. If you watch on Seymour Duncan's channel, there is a video of him explaining all that. So I'm not going to go ahead and explain all that. I encourage everyone to go and watch that after our show. And there's a really cool promo shot of our good friend Philip with the Seymour Duncan advertising, but that's his mother Strat, and it's well and truly loved. You can see it's been well and truly played there, Andrew. And he explains his love for the Stratocaster in that video as well. So it's definitely worth watching, and inspirational. As inspiring a player that Phillip is, he's also an inspirational human. He's very humble, and he is an extremely wonderful human being. So I encourage everyone to go and check that out. I know it's on my wish list, Andrew. These pickups are on my wish list. I have got a few strats, and I have thought about which one those pickups would go really nicely into. I am privileged to have probably one of the last sets of PS1 pickups that he did with Joel Wilkins, JW Restorations, so the late great man. And those pickups are they brought my 79 Stratocaster to life, Andrew. There's something about them. They just got this thing. I'll never replace those pickups out of that guitar. They're just something phenomenal. And I'm guessing with the, help and care that Phillip has put into these Seymour Duncan ones, I'm sure they're just as good.
Yeah, I'm a fan, bro, of upgrading guitars. I've done that often. My one of my Les Pauls, I put in some of those Monty Bethnal Greens. One of my Strats, I put in some City Limit Tone Riders, which, they're a good average kind of Texas blues kind of pickup. I watched you while you were soldering those pickups. I think you and I were talking when you were soldering those pickups in your Strat, and so I know that you are too. And I think, for the average guitar player, and at the end of it all, most of us are going to say we're average guitar players. And if you're looking for that little bit of a nudge, a little bit of that edge forward, doing some mods to your guitar certainly will give that to you, because, sometimes we just want to hear that 5% difference, bro. And even if you're just playing in a blues band at home with a couple of mates, that 5% difference is going to give you some great satisfaction, Brad.
100%, Andrew. I think every modification you make to a guitar, it certainly inspires you. And putting those PS1 pickups into my 79 Strat just inspired me so much to fall in love with the instrument again, even though I was already in love with the instrument, Andrew, and just really it took it to the next level. It didn't change the instrument, it just enhanced it. That's something that's very important to note, that changing pickups will enhance the guitar. It's going to make it, if you're after a particular sound, you're going to enhance the guitar by putting in different pickups. I have got pickups with original, let me rephrase that. I have got guitars with the original pickups in them, Andrew, and never changed them. And that's fine too. But if you're after something and you're after a particular sound, and let's be honest, Phillip Sayce is one of the tone gurus of our time. So I can just only imagine what these Seymour Duncan pickups are going to sound like putting in, a half decent Stratocaster.
Yeah, 100%. And I've put that link for the video that Brad's talking about in the chat here. And if you're watching on a replay, or if you want to come back and just get that link easy, if you don't want to go and search for it, it'll be attached here in the description, I promise you. But I agree with Brad. And one of the great things about following YouTube channels is that, you're going to get some great notifications most days, but you're going to get some really, really excellent ones that are going to pop up in your news feed. And clearly Brad and I were individually, separately surprised and blown away that Phillip has taken this opportunity with a renowned pickup builder to push his name, his brand forward, bro, into and I'm going to be very serious, bro, when I say this, but it's a fact, into the lucrative custom boutique pickup building business.
Yes.
It's a big thing, and it works if you get it right. And clearly, Seymour Duncan want to get it right with a modern strap master, and getting Phillip on, bro, is a smart move on their behalf, don't you think?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Phillip deserves the recognition. He deserves companies like Seymour Duncan to pick him up and, let him, show them what he wants out of something, and then put the love and care into that to try and replicate what he's after. So they've obviously done that, because I'm sure, knowing Phillip well enough, that he wouldn't put his name to something that he didn't believe in, Andrew, because I know in other things that have happened, he hasn't done so. So he wouldn't be one that would just say, slap my name on a pickup and I'm happy for you to sell as a signature range. He would have had quite an amount of input into it. And I'm sure the pickup is going to be mind-blowing. So it's definitely on my wish list, Andrew.
And again, I need to reiterate the point that Brad's made, folks. And if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that Phillip has been the subject of a lot of shows on the channel, in particular with Brad and I doing this kind of stuff here on the channel, talking about Phillip. And the video that Brad's making reference to, and the article in the Guitar World magazine, and also another guitar magazine as well, where he's talking about these pickups. He's unashamedly proud of the fact that he says quite clearly that he's quite finicky. He's quite fussy when it comes to his Stratocaster tone. He knows exactly what he wants. When he picked up that guitar and first heard it, he knew what that guitar was. And you don't get to this position, folks, without some experience and knowing what sounds good and what sounds shit. Because you got to play, Brad, a lot of shit stuff to know what sounds good, bro.
Oh, 100%. And I'm sure, look, there's something that we've all picked up a number of guitars, and, you go, yeah, it's in the ballpark. Sounds pretty good. But then you'll pick one up that just somehow it takes you to another place. Like you pick it up, immediately once you start playing it, the feel of it, the sound, it's exactly what, the doctor ordered, so to speak. It's exactly what you want. And when you do find that guitar, you never really want to pick up any other guitars, Andrew. I've found that, like, we've all got that guitar. Like Phillip's got, Mother, and he's got Big Daddy as well, another Strat that he plays, and he's pretty much worn them both completely down to the timber. Like, he plays them that much and plays them that hard and sweats on them, blood, sweat, and tears. That guitar there has been very well loved. And when I say that, it doesn't look well loved, but it's been played and loved. So, God bless Phillip for, inspiring us all to have. That's a picture of Big Daddy, his other Strat, 63 Strat. And that was, I think that might be a picture from one of his live streams he did through COVID, Andrew, possibly. When we used to, it's how we connected, through Phillip Sayce's live streams through the pandemic time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's funny how, Phillip's been on our show and we talk so much about him on our show. But the reason I'm on the show probably is because of Phillip Sayce's live Instagram lives, Andrew. You know what I mean? I don't know. That it's part of the reason, anyway.
It's 100%, bro. And I think this is one of the great things, and this is one of the reasons why we're doing this show, folks, because it's about the Stratocaster appeal. It's about that Stratocaster sound. It's that Stratocaster tone. And, you know, the three guys that we've chosen to talk about, we could have added another 20 guys onto the list. So, yeah, the comments that I had during the week from people about, you know, why isn't Stone Gossard on here as well, you know, and, you know, if we're talking about modern strap masters, why aren't we talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan? And I replied to one of my work colleagues. I said, well, if we're going to do anything about Stevie, it's going to be standalone. You know, yeah,
we will do more shows like this, Andrew, based around other guitar players. I think it was your idea just to throw these three out first. You know what I mean? And it's probably a really great opportunity to do this sort of thing because we're acknowledging, you know, the players that are inspiring us now, like the ones that are, you know, out there. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Stevie Ray Vaughan still inspires me. Every single day I put on one of his recordings, I hear something new and something exciting that just makes me think, oh, one of two things: I need to practice harder or hang up my guitar forever. Like it's, you know, it's not usually the later. It's usually the one that makes me want to play more. But there's players like Phillip Sayce, and you mentioned John Mayer, John Frusciante, you know, all these players that are out there still playing live gigs, recording, putting music out, and inspiring guys like you and me, Andrew. That it's worth noting and talking about these musicians as well. We've done countless shows on Stevie Ray Vaughan. We can still do more, but hey,
100%.
You know, there's guys out there like John Mayer, who's really phenomenal guitar player, but an amazing songwriter, and one of those guys that needs to be, you know, spoken about in a blues way as well, because he is a blues guitar player. You know what I mean? He's got a phenomenal tone, a phenomenal style. I mean, even Eric Clapton said, like, he's a master on the instrument. And to come from Eric Clapton's mouth, that's quite a big compliment. You know what I mean? When you're talking, I mean, look at the right-hand side of our screen, Andrew. You got Eric Clapton's things spinning around. We're massive Clapton freaks here. I think we've spoken about Clapton on this channel more than anybody. Yeah,
100%.
You know,
and what I like about these modern guys is they're unashamedly proud of one guitar player in particular, the one that we spoke about last week. Was it last week or the week before? Jimi Hendrix. You know, all three of them talk about Hendrix being the prime mover for them as far as a lot of things, Brad. Music, hearing music, playing the guitar, and in particular the Stratocaster, and also continuing. And I'll never forget this when you and I had Philip on, and it was, you know, every time Philip spoke about it, he said, you know, that I'm just in this line of guys that are continuing that Stratocaster sound. You know, I'm just in that vein, you know, and
still a student, he says.
Right in that wave.
Yeah, like we all are. We're all students of, you know, the greats like Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all those guys. I mean, wow, it's a great idea to talk about these guys, Andrew. And I got excited all week. I've been listening to, you know, Phillip Sayce. I've been listening to John Mayer. Been listening to Chili Peppers, John Frusciante. They're all great players in their own right. You can hear where their influences are drawn from, but, you know, they have put their own stamp on things as well. And I made a few notes, Andrew. I mean, the last few weeks I haven't been making notes, just been winging every show. But this week I made a few notes, and I thought, you know, you've got, say, you know, they're representing sort of blues and keeping it alive in different ways, Andrew. Say John Mayer, for example, he's the pop artist that's crossing blues over. You know what I mean? He's a good songwriter, he writes pop music. with his album Continuum. He crossed over a little bit of blues into that, stepping away from being singer-songwriter, and introduced a lot of young people to the blues, Andrew. Then there's John Frusciante. I mean, he's the soulful experimentalist, keeping that funk rock blues thing alive. And a lot of great guitar players have been doing that since, because of John Frusciante. You know what I mean? He influenced a lot of young guys, a lot of young cats. There was a band here in Australia called Juice. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but I could hear a lot of, obviously, Hendrix in their music, but there was a lot of John Frusciante in there. You could hear the experimental stylings of John Frusciante in there. And then you've got Phillip Sayce, which is like the high voltage, psychedelic blues explosion rocker. He's, and that's the three guys we're talking about today. And I think it's really important to, say they're contemporary bluesmen, but they're keeping the blues alive in their own way, Andrew. They're flying the blues flag.
Yeah, 100%, bro. And, and their interpretation of it, we were having a good chat. Well, we didn't have a good chat. When I put up a link for this show on Instagram, our dear friend Alan Garber made a comment and said, that he I don't want to quote Alan verbatim because I might get this wrong, but he couldn't understand John Frusciante and where he sits and things. And, for a long time, I couldn't either until I started, really listening to his music. Again, Brad, under the appreciation and the influence and guidance by other people. So I was listening to Red Hot Chili Peppers as this music and not really isolating Frusciante until I was doing exactly what you and I and the Rock Professor are doing here right now, talking with other people and go, okay. Yeah. And then actually getting some music and taking it home and sitting down and listening to the guy and going, I get it now. I finally get where this guy's going. And I just want to add on to one little quick thing before I hand it back over to you. In 2011, I'll never forget this. Across the road from us was a cafe, and I used to take my guitars from my car into work. Anyway, I ran across and grabbed a coffee, and there was a young guy called Dave there, and he said, "Oh, are you a guitar player?" And I said, yeah. And he said, "Oh, I see you, taking your guitar." And I said, "Oh, yeah, thanks for noticing. Awesome, dude." And he said, "Yeah, I'm a guitar player too." And I said, "Oh, fantastic, And he was talking about the guitar that he's got. And I said, usual story, bro. What kind of music do you play? Who's your influences? Because you got to find that once you find someone's a guitar player, you got to find a little bit more to continue the conversation, bro." And then when he said, John Mayer and John Frusciante, I said, this guy, even back then, bro, in 2011, I thought, this guy has got it. Was I getting it back then? No, I wasn't, but I knew enough to know, bro, that these guys were in that right vein. Make sense?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. It's always good to, meet people and you find out the guitar players and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm into like an artist that you like and that you're listening to currently or whatever." And then you can spend hours of like head nods and waving and, talking and everything about, guitar and, "Hey man, this week, is it, say for example, it was a coffee shop guy, was it, Andrew, you're saying, was it?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go like to the coffee shop, you order your coffee and you're like, that's your rocket fuel for the day. And you start talking about, "Hey man, did you hear this thing? Or did you hear that? Or, oh man, have you heard this new album by this bloke? And check it out." And this wonderful world of Spotify, they can quickly go and look it up and send them a link and off they go. And then the next time you see them, they go, "Hey man, that dude was really cool." They go, "Man, that sucked."
So while we're talking about this, I just want to make a little point with you, bro. So I'm going to be honest. when Continuum came out in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get. I never. I wasn't listening to that album when it came out. It wasn't until about 2010, 2011, bro, where I started appreciating that album. How did you lock on to Continuum without going too in depth? Because I know we've got a show coming up, but I'm intrigued to know your your short version of that, please.
Well, the first thing I heard of Continuum was "Waiting on the World to Change," and I
Yeah,
just thought, I mean, I'd heard of John Mayer, I knew his Bodies of Wonderland and all the hits
yeah,
that he'd done prior to this album, but obviously I thought he was good and a great songwriter, but never really put two and two together that he was an exceptional guitar player, Andrew, other than being the singer-songwriter, acoustic guy, and really good at doing that. But then
yep,
hearing Continuum, like "Waiting on the World to Change," I was like, geez, there's something like about this, yeah. And that little solo he did in the middle, and I'm like, man, that's there's a little bit of Hendrix there. And then the next thing I heard of Continuum, I was like, I think it might have even been uh Belief or Gravity. I can't remember what song it was, Andrew. And I was like, wow, it was Belief. I'm sure it was because of that intro, the guitar tone. I was like, man, this dude's got the tone, man. He's got that neck pickup and that, the out of phase tone on the Strat, like the in between tones as well. I was like, what's going on here? And then I bought the album, and I've instantly fell in love with the album, Andrew, and realized that he was a huge Hendrix fan because he even put Bottles of Love on there, which is one of my all-time favorite Hendrix songs. And I was like, this guy's amazing. And then I saw all this live stuff of him, his promotion of it. He was on nearly every single talk show and everything like that. And my son became a huge addict of John Mayer and that song Belief. He used to stand in front of my big screen TV at the time with the stereo blasting, and he used to like put his hands on the thing and bop up and down and in his nappy. And I thought, there's something really cool about this guy's connecting with everybody. But and then I bought there was a live in LA, I think it was Where the Light Is, where he does 3 sets, Andrew. He does one like an acoustic set, which is
yep,
kind of like touching on obviously his early years of being a singer-songwriter. He even does a cover of Free Fallin', Tom Petty, which we've done the
yep,
Tom Petty show. And
yep,
that's really cool too. He does it his own way, which is great. And then the trio set, which we haven't even spoken about the John Mayer trio yet, which is, where I think John Mayer personally needs to sit. His career needs to be in that ballpark, like that trio thing, Andrew. I think that's where he shines. That set he did on that totally blew me away. It was something that um, I never expected of John Mayer. He comes out doing, that song Every Day I Have the Blues, and that tone and the band, this rhythm section, Pino Palladino, Steve Jordan, unbelievable. And that set there is, I don't know, it must be 6 or 7 songs, Andrew, but phenomenal. And then he comes back out as the band with, all the songs like Waiting on the World to Change and Slow Dancing in a Burning Room and all that. And I just thought this guy is going to be the next big blues artist. And he kind of stepped away from it for a while there. And I'm hoping that John Mayer now maybe goes back to the blues, because I think, you get to you're never too old for the blues, Andrew. We discussed this on a show when we did Slash's blues album, when he did this blues album. It's a really good direction for an artist to go in, because you can do the blues to the day you die. Like there's never a point where you can't play blues anymore. But to answer your question without going round and round in circles, Andrew, Continuum completely changed my opinion of John Mayer and made me rediscover a lot of his earlier stuff and appreciate it more. And also the John Mayer Trio album, Try, I think it's called. That is something that everybody needs to go and listen to really appreciate where John Mayer's heart and soul is. I think his heart and soul is in that trio style music, Andrew. You know?
Yeah, 100%, bro. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation because I found out about John Mayer in an interesting way. I knew who he was as far as the radio hits goes, from his when he first came on the scene right through the early 2000s. And I didn't pay any attention to the guy. And it wasn't, bro, until I was watching a YouTube clip where they were talking about manufacturing and making Fender guitars. And Fender had him in the factory and he was making that black guitar of his, which I always loved. And it showed him reliquing it and making this guitar. And I thought, oh, okay, this, and he was talking about the Fender Stratocaster, as being this great instrument and how he always wanted one and, and where he came from. And I think he even played a little bit on that. So I went and checked out Continuum. And then another work colleague of mine at the time said, you need to go and check out, because he knew where I was coming from as far as music. You need to go and check out the John Mayer Trio. What was it called, bro? Try.
Yes.
And that DVD in 2008 that you've mentioned. And I remember, like you, going, holy cow, this now I get why cats are going crazy over this guy, because he was phenomenal. And the backup band in that John Mayer Trio, I knew these guys anyway, and I'm thinking, well, if these guys are playing with this young guy, he must be pretty good, because these guys don't just go and play with anybody, do they? So there has to be some kind of edge there. And like you, bro, I went nuts over this guy for a while. I was reading all about him, and then you found out, that he was a Stevie Ray Vaughan nut, and Stevie Ray Vaughan essentially got him into, like a lot of cats, into Jimi Hendrix. So he's very proud to talk about that story. And then obviously you and I were talking last week about his social life. Got in the way. But when he came out with that album in 2012, do you remember it? Called Born and Raised. Yes. And I remember Born and Raised was the album, and the one after that called Paradise Valley in 2013, where he's kind of, bro, where he's kind of going down that Americana kind of road, which didn't quite click for me, bro.
No, well, that's the thing. I think he rediscovers his love for certain things that musically that inspires him. So he follows that path when he's writing. And then I'm always hopeful when I hear a new John Mayer album that he steps into and does like what Clapton did and do From the Cradle and release like a blues record. You know what I'm saying? That would be amazing. I mean, I've seen John Mayer live in Australia here, and it was fantastic. But that he did play a lot of Continuum, but I think it was on the album after that he was touring the soul. But Orianthi was his opening act, by the way. She's another phenomenal guitarist we should probably talk about at some point. But yeah, I'll tell you what, that was a mind-blowing gig, and the sound of his guitar live was heavenly. You know what I mean? It had that really big bell-like strat tone that we're all chasing. We're all students, as Philip puts it, and we're all chasing that tone. But you can see one of his biggest influences is without a doubt Stevie Ray. He's even got his SRV tattooed on his arm. You know what I mean? So that's a pretty big commitment, getting a tattoo your hero's initials. You know what I mean? So yeah, that without a doubt, though, I think he's a modern day Strat Blues hero, Andrew, without a doubt.
Oh, mate, I rate the guy too, bro. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to bring up some of these photos, and
yeah,
hold on, bro. So that's the Jimi Hendrix replica, bro.
yeah. The Monterey Strat that they re-released. I'm sure that's not the Mexican version. I'm sure that's the US one. Nothing wrong with the Mexican one. I believe that Strat there, if I am correct, and I'm not a huge you know, I'm not huge on knowing 100% each guitar what he's got, Andrew. I know he's got some prized L series strats and whatnot, but I think that one there may possibly be his SRV strat that he changed a few things out on. That was one of his first electric guitars, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that there I can see that's Pino Palladino on the right side of the photo. So that could be a trio set. And I know he used to play that Monterey Fender a lot in that trio set. So I'm assuming that's his I think that's his black Strat that, you know, he is quite.
That's the one he made.
Yeah, quite famous.
Or painted.
Yeah.
Relic.
Relic that stuck it in a freezer, all sorts of things. Yeah. But we'd love to get John Mayer on, actually. That'd be great for him to discuss and talk guitars. And, you know, more than happy to discuss predominantly PRS guitars, Andrew, which, you know, which is something that, you know, would be amazing to get him on and talk about. So, you know.
Yeah,
Mm.
I rate him, bro, as a guitar player, and I think that if anybody is looking for certainly a modern master that's continuing that long line of Strat players, and he also gets that lovely Strat tone, that single coil tone. Let's call it that single coil tone, and those PRSs. Just he's phenomenal, and one of the good things too about him that I like, bro, about Phillip Sayce too, is that he's on social media and he interacts with his fans, bro.
Yeah. Well, he is a very kind-hearted person, Andrew. You know, he's got a big heart, and I think he really truly appreciates his following, which is, you know, I guess once you get to a point in your career where you've got a large following, you can go one of both ways. It's hard to please everyone, but to be there for your fans is something that's pretty cool. And, you know, to comment back on little things here and there, and throw the odd comment back to a comment that you throw up on social media, like on their, you know, there might be a post of them playing to promote their new pickup range, and you post something and they might just put a thumbs up or anything. You just go, wow, that's cool. They actually responded. It's, you know, so they are involved in, and Phillip is definitely one of those guys. You know, struck up a good friendship with Phillip through the years, through social media and whatnot, and then through another platform called Together. But yeah, I think the friendship was formed before that. So, and it was all through social media. So guys that do, you know, jump on and chat to their fans and whatnot, I think it's a wonderful thing, Andrew.
Yeah, and you know, John Mayer too, you know, especially, you know, for a long time there was streaming live guitar lessons, bro, from his mansion wherever he was in the world, you know, on a regular basis. And
I loved that. That's great.
And yeah, mate, there were hundreds of people in the chat watching, and I remember what, you know, because I used to watch as many of them as I could, bro. But there was one thing that struck me. The guy is he's up here and when it comes to talking about guitar theory and music theory, the guy is literally a genius, and you can kind of pick it up in his conversation. But one thing that he always said, though, when he was talking about this, and he realized when he was like, he's a little bit like some of these organic intellectuals. He starts talking, and realizing that he's actually way up here, and then he's I better bring it back down. And he was doing that quite well. And I remember he would say often, all you have to have is a passion for it. Don't let not having that technical skill get in the way. If you've still got that passion, the technical will follow through, bro. I remember thinking, and people go, yeah, John, thanks, John, because everybody's got the passion.
Yeah, and I mean, I love how he talks about. I saw one of his lessons, and it was he was talking about. It could have been slow dancing in a burning room, and he's talking about bringing it back to the basics, and it's all based around chord shapes and playing chords, not like focus on the basics and the chords, and then everything else around that. So that was a very, very eye-opening, and something I needed to hear at the time too, Andrew, because I was focusing more on other things, melodies, trying to play inversions, trying to play off the back of chords and complicate things too much, where, he would talk about, okay, this is, I can't remember what he was exactly saying, but it goes from E minor to A, but I'm playing this, but it's based around that chord and that chord. So, and then you're just watching the inversions playing off that chord. So you start going, this isn't that difficult, but it seems difficult when you're trying to learn it. So what the hell is this, But I guess that's where it comes down to when we're talking about Hendrix, Andrew, and saying learning, say, Castles Made of Sand, like I did with Dave Leslie from Baby Animals. I had no idea, and I didn't understand the concept of what the hell Hendrix is playing and how he's doing it. And then he showed me, and based around the chord shapes, it started to make sense. So John Mayer talking about that kind of backed all that up as well. So, but the wonderful thing about those live streams, I think it brings the fans in as well. I think it's wonderful to have that one-on-one time with them, even though it's not one-on-one for John Mayer. He might have millions of fans come into a live stream. He can't acknowledge them all, but he just talks to everyone as if he's talking to them. You know what I mean? And I remember watching. He used to do the there was so much noise and everything going on around the pandemic and how stressful everyone's lives were getting and everything like that. And he used to do these comedy things where he'd get on and he goes, I call these hours the quiet hours. He goes, say after 8 p.m., I don't want to know the problems of the world. I don't want to know. I just want to, I just want to chill and I just want to go to bed and I don't want to know there's he goes, there could be helicopters flying over my roof. There could be, stuff going on outside his door. He doesn't want to know about it. He just wants those quiet hours to bring the stress and anxiety levels down and just relax. And I still remember that to that day. So even from John Mayer's live stream, Andrew, I've made it a pact in my life that after 9:30, I don't want to know if there's helicopters flying around outside, this and that. I don't want to know. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know till the next day. I want to try and relax and get a good night's sleep and wake up feeling fresh the next day. And that was all because of John Mayer's live stream, Andrew.
Brilliant.
I call it the quiet hours. That's it. I don't want to know no more.
The quiet hours. Yeah, what I like about that live stream, bro, too, is that, he was giving some tips to people and he was adamant too. He said, look, if you want to play this kind of music, you've got to be able to do the thumb over, yes. and I remember he spent about half an hour explaining to people, and there's a lot of good YouTube videos out there, and I would recommend it too, the thumb over, because a lot of people don't realize how to do it. You're using the side of your thumb. And I remember John was saying, you know, for you to be able to play those inversions that you were talking about, Brad, when you're playing those chords and that second position scale, you got to be able to play with the thumb over. And
Yes.
and he said, I didn't invent this. I'm just a guy that's playing the style and the method that was done by Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix, and I'm just passing that on to you. If you want to sound like this, this is what you got to do. And I'm going, wow.
Yeah. So for anyone who's not familiar with John Mayer, please do yourself a favor. There's 3 things I want you to go and check out, and I've written them down, Andrew, so don't forget them. I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to rattle them off. So
cool.
2006, John Mayer released an album called Continuum. So I highly recommend you go and check that out. In 2005, he released like a blues power trio called the John Mayer Trio. And the album is called Try. So I highly recommend you go listen to that. And if you've got the ability to still buy DVDs, if you can find it online, even if you have to order it online, get Live in Los Angeles. I think it's called Where the Light Is, Live in Los Angeles. And that in itself is one of the finest live performances you'll ever see. And one note I made about Continuum, Andrew, he thanks Eric Clapton in that album. Have you noticed in the liner notes of that?
100%. And I'm just going to tack on to your wonderful reference. And it's a Clapton inspired thing. Go and check out all the Crossroads gigs that Eric's done, because John's been on every single one of them, and he's passionate when he's on those gigs. He's a passionate supporter of what Eric is doing with those gigs, bro, and he gets into it. And again, bro, the 2010 one that I saw blew me away. And I'm going, And what did Eric Clapton say? Called him a master, bro.
Yes, he's a master. He's he's a master on the guitar. That's what he said. So I highly recommend those. And you're going to pick out the songs that you love from those 3 references regardless. But you'll go and have a listen to Believe, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, Who Do You Think I Was? You'll be stepping back in time listening to those fantastic records, Andrew, and recordings.
I look forward to ranking Continuum with you and the Rock Professor and Try. I can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, we're looking forward to that. I mean, that's the wonderful thing. There's always albums to be ranked, Andrew. You know what I mean? There always will be. So once the Rock Professor's back, we will be doing that. But I wanted to, do the same thing, Andrew, if it's okay with you, with John Frusciante. I've done a couple of things that I think are well and truly, important things to as references for people to go and have a listen to. If that's okay.
Sure. Just give me 1 second, bro. I just want to do a shout out to John ZD351. He's saying he's still listening, and he hates gardening work. So in your ears, bro, I'm hoping that at least the conversation we're helping you along. We're inspiring you to get that job done.
Yeah, well, hopefully you're almost finishing, mate, because where I am here in Melbourne, it's 5:30 p.m. and it's getting a bit dark and bleak out there. So hopefully you near the end of your gardening works there, John. Hopefully, fingers crossed, mate.
Hey, Brandon, we're gonna talk about Californication with you soon. So Brad's gonna do a bit of an intro, and we can talk about this, because if you nailed that solo, well done.
Yeah, well, well done, because Californication is one of the albums I think that you should be referencing for John Frusciante. Blood Sugar Sex Magic, I think that's another one. You can't go past that. And I really enjoyed the album, by the way, as well, Andrew. Stadium Arcadium, and even more, look, Under the Bridge, if you love Jimi Hendrix, that's one that you've got to go and have a listen to. I'll never forget one of my good friends who's dearly departed now, Danny, used to play Under the Bridge really, really well. Like he'd spent a lot of time on it. And it really just blew my mind how beautiful that song was to watch someone play. And I've seen the Chili Peppers live with John Frusciante, and they did that song. I think Scar Tissue is another one. That's a great one. Under the Bridge, Suck My Kiss. I mean, they're all iconic, Andrew. Those songs, you've got to go and listen to them. And the wonderful thing I love about his style, and because it's been a while since I've really had a good listen to any Red Hot Chili Peppers, Andrew, it's been, well over 6 months to a year. So I had a good listen to, a few tracks off each album, just like I do on Spotify. I'll go through and listen and soak up the hits and get back in the vein of that music. And I specifically remember when Under the Bridge came out, and then Suck My Kiss and all those songs came out of Blood Sugar Sex Magic. We had Nirvana at the time coming out with Smells Like Teen Spirit, had Soundgarden. There was so much good music coming out at that present point in time. But I remember, because I was a Hendrix fan, really digging the Chili Peppers because of that Hendrix vibe and that Stratocaster tone. And, I'm a Strat lover. I'm a Strat player. I play a Strat just as much as I play a Les Paul. And there was something about that tone that he had that drew me to that album. And then obviously moving forward, I mean, the Californication, that was a big one, just before the end of the millennium, it was 1999, I think it came out, and there was all this stuff going on, and the world's going to end at year 2000, and all I could worry about was Dream of Californication. That's all I could worry about. So listening to Frusciante again with fresh ears has been really, really pleasant. I definitely encourage everyone to go and listen to those albums, Andrew, after our show, not now.
Look, I agree with you, bro. I'll never forget Under the Bridge too, being a huge song, a huge hit here, and it got a lot of people interested. And that album deservedly went on to become and seen as, one of the masterpieces of rock music.
Yeah.
And unfortunately had that two-edged sword, which some musicians and guitar players unfortunately can't cope with. The instant success that album propelled that band in. And John, was a fragile kind of guy, bro. He had dependency issues. His personality at the time hadn't been developed, to the point that it is now. And he'll often tell you about that on YouTube videos. And he just wasn't prepared for it, bro. And I think this is why I love that album so much. And, and there's other better albums that have come on. But one of the reasons why I love that album, it's like Guns N' Roses, bro, Appetite with Destruction. Yeah. As much as just about every song on that track is a hit, when they recorded that, they just did that for their local fans, bro. That was just for their local mates. They had no idea or comprehension in their mind, bro, that they were going to be singing $1 million songs, bro.
I know. Isn't it funny that it's the artists that record music to release just for their fan base, to keep the fan base on, are the ones that usually get somewhere and are, historians, in my opinion, they're going to go down in history as being some of the greatest albums of all time, or rock album, or whatever you want to call it.
No pressure. There was absolutely no pressure for them on that album, bro.
Yeah, I know. So we, I think we'll be doing a little bit more on John Frusciante moving forward, Andrew. 100%. But I think it's only fair that I know we've spoken a little bit about Phillip Sayce and help promote and push his Seymour Duncan pickups to what we can do with our 11,000 followers, Andrew. But there's a really cool picture of John Frusciante. Is that his prized L
62.
Series strap? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
his prize one. So yeah, I think that, and I
And
think
this is a
Fender,
replica.
yeah, they did a
Yeah.
custom shop replica of it, didn't they? I think I know someone overseas who bought that.
20 grand, bro.
Ooh.
When it came out, US.
Yeah.
That was a
Ooh.
few years ago.
Not affordable here in Australia, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Now I want to make note that picture you've shared there, Andrew. See that amp on the right there?
You got that, baby.
That's that Jubilee Marshall, and that is basically what I would consider to be one of the greatest Marshall amplifiers ever made.
Uh-huh.
And that's
You
what
heard it, bro.
Yeah, and that's what the JCM Slash is based off. It's pretty much that with different colored tolics, and hasn't got the silver front on it. But that amp there has powered many rock stars. Let's be honest. I mean, the Black Crowes, Guns N' Roses, everyone. Yeah, they got a phenomenal tone, and you can see John. He's one of those guys that will go down as that what do you call it? The quiet achiever. It's not like he's trying to stand out too much, Andrew. Do you know what I mean? He's doing his job, being part of the song. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Doing his thing.
100%, bro. And if you know a little bit about him, and there's some wonderful videos out there, he's on the edge. Let's make that quite clear. He lives for music, and there's videos there where he would talk for hours. Ruben, when Ruben first started producing them, and apparently Ruben wanted to go somewhere, and go and do something, maybe go and have dinner, or go and see the family or something. But John wouldn't let him go, because he wanted to talk about Jimi Hendrix. They were 2 hours into a conversation. No, we haven't finished yet. Where you going, Brad?
No.
Come here. You're not going anywhere.
No, not going anywhere, mate.
Definitely a guy that just lives and breathes it, eh?
Yeah, he loves it. And you can hear it. It flows through him, flows through his music and his guitar playing. I mean, his guitar playing is timeless, Andrew. That's for sure. It'll be there forever.
You know what I like about him, bro, the most? And Stevie Ray Vaughan comes to my mind too. Playing a Stratocaster through these amps that are turned way up. These guys, their amps were all on 10. But what I like about John, bro, is that he can play, and it's on the live albums as well as the studio albums. His clean tone, bro, on that Strat or the single coils, his clean tone. It never hits a bum note, but when he turns it up and whacks an effect on, bro, a drive, an overdrive or a boy, he can rock it with the best, bro.
Oh yeah, he's got that big bell-like Strat tone. I call it bell-like. It sounds like a bell ringing, especially that clear top end stuff that cuts through. Even on the neck pickup, it's like it's a bell ringing. It's beautiful. Yeah, there's something about it. He's got that one. But like I was saying, Andrew, I think we're sort of getting close to the end of the show. But I don't want to sort of do anything without sort of doing for Philip what I've done for the other two guys, John Mayer and John Frusciante. I made some notes here. I think
Good.
Philip is one of those guys that's like I mentioned it before, like a high voltage blues, psychedelic blues powerhouse guitar player. If people don't know who, Phillip Sayce is, his background, he played with Jeff Healey, Melissa Etheridge, amongst others. His influences are, Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Clapton, Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler. He's quite open about all that. and you can hear all that in his music. And I love that his influences are there. You can hear them, but he is his own player as well. I've put his stylings down to blues, but it's explosive. It's loud, it's passionate, but it's also very sensitive, and he can dial it back and play from the heart, and he can play very dynamically soft. And he's one of these guys that's got one of the most amazing vibratos and bending skills to this day. We're talking from blues greats to this day. He keeps that Stratocaster blues player thing flying, that flag. He's still doing it, like he talks about. He's very humble about it. He talks about being a student of the blues, a student of all these greats. And I love that, Andrew. But key albums I think everybody has to go and have a listen to. Obviously, one of the first things that I sort of discovered about Phillip Sayce was his album Peace Machine, Andrew. I mean, I'd seen him play on a Jeff Healey DVD, a live DVD, and I was blown away by this guy. I was like, who the F is this guy? I was like, I've never heard of this guy before. Being here in Australia, we're very sheltered when it comes to hearing, newer guys. And then, hearing Peace Machine, it kind of, and I mentioned it, Andrew, I think many years ago when you interviewed me about my EP, Philip's album, Peace Machine and all that, and then hearing Spirit Rising after that were the albums that pushed me to do my own thing and not try and do a band anymore, where I actually was singing and playing guitar up front, not just being a guitar player in a band. So, I mean, I have Philip to thank for that. But so key albums, Peace Machine. I think Ruby Electric is a fantastic record. Spirit Rising, his more recent one, The Wolves Are Coming. Go and check those out as a starting point, and I'm sure you'll investigate. There's a lot more there to actually to discover. But if you want to hear, is Oh That Bitch's Brew, that's a fantastic one, his recent album. Then you've got like more sort of slow burning soulful numbers on Spirit Rising. At 555 is like a prayer to his dad, and that's a beautiful little instrumental. You've got other instrumentals he's done called Alchemy, Steamroller. That album, actually, go and check that album. That album has one of the best drum sounds for a modern blues record, in my opinion, and the guitar playing on that is outstanding. But that, again, everything that Philip does is next level and outstanding, Andrew. So I can't say enough great things about Philip. We all know how you and I both feel about Phillip Sayce. So thank you, Philip, for coming on our show again. And it's been a massive highlight for us, Andrew, having him on.
100%, bro. And, some of the greatest shows that we've done between you and I and the Rock Professor have been ranking Philip's albums. And there's, we'll attach some links here if you want to go and check those out. But, what I particularly like about Philip is that he digs deep into that psychedelic rock vein, that we all love. And he taps into that and he pulls it, he drags it forward, bro, into the modern era. And he whacks you in the face with it, and you've got to pay attention to it, and then, as you say, he can just turn it down with some beautiful melodic songs. He's definitely a player worth checking out. And John Frusciante too, he's definitely, one of the things. Before we wind up the show, I just want to echo one little thing, bro, one little key thing that you said when we were starting to talk about Frusciante. You spoke about, Blood Sixth album coming out at the same time with Nirvana and Soundgarden, and you had the Stratocaster Les Paul tone of Pearl Jam around the same time, bro. that early 1990s period was a hot 4 or 5 year period of guitar-based bands, bro.
Oh, look, how blessed were we in that time of music to be. I mean, for me, I was growing up, I was learning guitar. First song I ever learned on guitar was Smells Like Teen Spirit. And that era of music for me, I mean, at the time I was listening to Hendrix, Zeppelin, Sabbath, all that, Cream, Clapton. I was listening to all that stuff. And at high school, I had the nickname hippie because everyone was listening to Motley Crue, Poise, and all that. And I was listening to, all that retro stuff. And then all of a sudden, we had this Seattle sound thing take over. And there were spin-offs from that as well. But the wonderful thing about that time frame, Andrew, is the songwriter thing came to the forefront again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cobain was an outstanding songwriter. I mean,
Yeah.
It wasn't about the guitar anymore. It was about attitude. It was about songwriting. Same with Pearl Jam, but they had the guitar playing in there. They had the more virtuoso style guitar playing, a little bit of Hendrix, a little bit of Stevie Ray in there as well as others. We had, you mentioned it was Soundgarden. They were touching more on a Sabbath thing, in my opinion. They were more like Sabbath, but they were doing their own thing in amongst that. I could hear Zeppelin, I could hear everything, but they had their own sound as well. I mean, you can't sit and play one of their albums and play along to every one of their albums on one guitar. You have to change guitars for different tunings, this and that. And then at the same time, Andrew, you had Guns N' Roses releasing Use Your Illusion 1, Use Your Illusion 2. And then in the mid-90s, you had bands like The Tea Party, another Canadian band that blew my mind. Same thing, you can't sit and play one of their whole albums from start to finish with the guitar. You've got to change tunings. It's like this whole thing. There was Tool, there was all these Radiohead, there was all these creative and experimental bands coming out at the time too. So it was a very wonderful time to be alive and to be, listening to new music. And what we spoke about, I think even last week and the week before, popular music. It was stuff that was getting played on the radio. It was popular music,
And what was the reaction in the UK to this aggressive American rock and roll music that was coming out? Oasis, Britpop, a guitar-based music, but with more melody, bro. That was that. Oh,
yeah. So we're very blessed, and I think, I'm not going to rat and bag musicianship of today and bands coming out today, because there are great rock bands coming out today, but they're buried by a lot of commercialized music that, in my opinion, don't deserve to be where they are. I'll just say that. I'm not going to bag them, because there's a place for every music, Andrew. There's a place for every artist, I believe. But it's a shame that music has become so commercialized and explicit that it buries a lot of good music and a lot of good bands that are coming out that are relevant in my eyes and maybe other people's eyes, but nobody knows of them because there's a lot of junk that's pushed in front of us. And, I could go on for days about that, but I think the whole TikTok 30-second clip world thing has ruined people in the sense of their attention span won't listen to a whole album anymore.
Yeah, well, that's sad. Bro, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you, getting your insight as ever on this show. I'm going to preempt what we're going to do next week. We've spent the last couple of weeks talking about Stratocasters and Strat players being very dear to our hearts. Next week, we're going to talk surprise, we're going to talk Les Paul guitar players.
Oh,
We're going to balance up this. We got to balance the scales, bro. We can't, you know, yeah, we're going to do that. So we're going to talk about some Strat players. Some Les Paul players. We're going to talk about Mr. Page next week. We're going to talk about Peter Green, and we're going to talk about Paul Kossoff as you know, 3 great Les Paul players who inspired us.
Yeah.
And other musicians. And then the week after, we'll talk about modern Les Paul players, bro. So we'll find some modern Les Paul players to dovetail into that show, bro. How does that sound?
Sounds good, mate. I think you'll have to push Slash into the modern one, Andrew.
Mate, I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah. The Slash has to be there somewhere. You think of Les Paul and you think Slash. I'm sorry. That's in my head. That's what I think. So
modern Les Paul. Yeah. So, got to be Slash. So he's
and
definitely going to be in the show. Yeah. And look, Slash may even turn up on the show. On that show, you just don't know.
Oh, look, we can ask him. We'll see. Hey, well, I will say this, Andrew. If John Frusciante, John Mayer, and Phillip Sayce, you're all welcome to join the show at any time. And we love and think we love and admire you guys immensely. So we'd love to have you on the show if you ever decided to come on. Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah.
We're fans, and well done, bro. And Seymour Duncan, if you're looking for an artist based in Australia to base a set of pickups around Brad Cook Music at Brad Cook Music is available.
I won't say no, mate. 100% I would. Hey, listen, and Seymour Duncan, guys at Seymour Duncan, if you're listening, I'm more than happy to road test a pair of Phillip Sayce pickups in one of my Strats. I'll do it for the channel here. We've got 11,000 subscribers. I'll do it. How's that?
We'll hashtag Seymour Duncan, Phillip Sayce on this show, bro.
Yes.
Well done.
I'll do it. I'll even take a little video clip of me trying to solder them into my guitar.
All right, bro. It's been great hanging out with you. I'll let you get back to your busy life. As ever, we always appreciate everybody's time, not only Brad's time, but also folks here in the chat for joining us weekly. And you know who they are. And I'm going to do a shout out now. We've got John ZD351, Alan Toll as ever. Alan, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure, and we look forward. The show's not the same without you. Brandon, forever. Thank you. He's right. There are some great Red Hot Chili Pepper documentaries when they're making these black and white one where they're making Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It's an outstanding documentary. Go and check it out. We also had Steve Snyder, all the way from Washington State. Kurt's boy, good to see you, Steve. Tony Bowen was in here, bro. Quinton James was here. Good to see you. Johnny Heartbreaker. Yep. And I think, bro, that was all. And Gretch Zeppelin, how can I forget Gretch Zeppelin? Here he is. Yep. He asked a question. Somebody asked us a question about whether or not we've got some gear coming up. So we might answer that question next week. If you are watching on a replay, I would like to invite you to go to our channel page, and you'll see all our friends there. Please go and subscribe to them. We really appreciate the fact that you're supporting us, but please support our friends. A subscription doesn't cost you anything, but it helps the channel that you subscribe to. One subscriber can get someone from 9,999 to 10,000.
Yes. That's it.
Or 999 to 1,000.
That's right. So, yes, please subscribe to our channel too if you haven't already done so.
So I'll do a show card, bro, for next week. So, we'll get together and we'll talk Les Paul. Got to balance the scales, bro.
Yeah, we got to do it. Got to do it.
We're out of here.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Cheers, bro.
Bye.